71 years ago today, our military dropped the atom bomb on our enemy, Japan. At Hiroshima, the nuclear age invaded the whole world. 3 weeks after I invaded an Illinois farm world, my parents took me to worship at their one-room rural Methodist church. The doors were never open unless the Lewises were there. The one-room schools my two brothers and I walked to had one teacher, grades 1 through 8. I loved school. I sure would like to be a teacher someday. After my 3rd year in high school, our little church's student pastor took us to summer camp, 50 miles from home. So many new friends, so many preachers, a swimming pool, campfires, laughing lines outside the dining room. Here we stand like birds in the wilderness, waiting for our food. And best of all, Catherine. Catherine, scarcely older than we campers, had been a missionary. I'd never seen a missionary. Catherine had been finally barely settled in her mission when our government ordered her back to the USA because her new country was at war. Now, she was here, jobless. Bitter? Fearful? No, overflowing with joy, thankfulness, anticipation. I went home from that camp thinking, if God can do that in the life of someone who's only been a missionary for a very short time, I sure would like to be a missionary someday. My cousins all married at 18, so I was an old maid when I left for Illinois State. I love studying to be a teacher someday. I spent the summer of 1945 in Chicago's YMYW Students in Industry. College students from many parts of the United States were given jobs in wartime industries. But our director, Victor Obenhaus, yes, the Victor Obenhaus of Pleasant Hill Academy, honored my rejection of war. He got me a sales clerk job at Goldblatt's, where laborers and minimum wage workers shopped and socialized. Weekends, we students marched in picket lines with the laborers or were otherwise immersed in daily issues faced by the laborers. I went back home to rural Illinois, understanding lots more about God's big world. And my family, so many new brothers and sisters. My heart was shattered that August by news of the atomic bomb attack on August 6th. Having worked my way through college, I needed to pay debts off before going to seminary. I'd be a missionary someday. In Mason City, Iowa, I got paychecks for directing YW teenagers, but I also was heavily involved in the big Methodist church. 2 full-time pastors. Did I mention that my world was expanding? As a delegate to the 1947's National Youth Event in Cleveland, Ohio, I heard speakers from all over the world challenging us in session after session, and I prayed that the 13,000 youth sitting around me would hear calls from God. I wanted to hear one someday. Then, one day, Dr. Diffendorfer announced the General Douglas MacArthur's call for 1,000 young Christians to come to occupied Japan, promising our military is installing government frameworks, but the Japanese youth need a new heart to build democracy. Why couldn't I get this out of my mind? I found 8 undeniably solid reasons that this mission was not for me. Having been downed by 2 kinds of pneumonia last year, I shouldn't risk war-torn living conditions. My 4 grandparents were showing their age, so I shouldn't be gone overseas yet. I was going to seminary next fall to learn how to be a missionary and maybe meet a preacher husband, and on and on. I was totally miserable. My lifetime enthusiasms had all gone sour. After several weeks of recalling E. Stanley Jones' speech, "If you commit all to God for His special care, you need fear nothing," I prayed desperately. And one Sunday morning, "God, if it's really you calling me, I'll go. Help me believe you will go ahead of me into that world so different from my home. Amen." Fast forward through strenuous medical tests and vetting, 6 weeks of intensive training with 50 J3s, including a guy who said, "Just call me Dick." Sailing dates canceled 3 times with my supplies sitting on the dock in San Francisco. Finally, a freighter from New Orleans through the Panama Canal, 27 days on sea to Yokohama. I admit I often prayed, "God, did I misunderstand your call? Is this really your world? This far from all I know of home?" It was a cold November morning, 1948. At Hiroshima Girls' School, I was seated on the platform facing 900 black-haired girls. They sat on low benches on the dirt floor of the unheated chapel, looking up at their new missionary teacher. The girls rose to sing. I couldn't understand their words at all, but the music said, "This is my Father's world. This is my Father's world." God's world. Here, my new world, my new home, with lots of younger sisters to love.